Okay, my name is Brett Lund, and I want to welcome you to another Ivinex online training webinar. This one is going to be on surveys. Now, we'll get more into what surveys are, but from my initial notification of letting everybody know that this is the next topic, seemed to be that not too many people knew about this part of Ivinex. So I think it's going to be a good webinar. We're going to learn a few things about the survey system in Ivinex. A couple quick notes. As always, this is an interactive webinar. If you have some questions, please use the chat icon on your Join Me widget to send questions to me. I'll do my best to answer them during the webinar. So, also, the only audio that you will hear is my own, just to keep the noise down. So I'm just going to get started here. We're going to continue on. All right. So let's talk about Ivinex surveys. Probably the first couple questions. What is it, and why would you want to use it? In general, I want to say that the Ivinex survey is a data module, and it's pretty much just like all of your other data modules, except for it has additional functionality that normal data modules don't have. So, I can name my module. I could call it contacts. I can add fields to it. I can add static fields and buttons and all sorts of neat stuff. And I can even use subtabs to segment my fields out if I want. That's normal functionality. And the survey can do all of that. And the additional pieces that you get is it has the ability to launch with a public-facing URL. So the public could interact with that data module. Now, not the whole module, just kind of like the area where you would actually enter in a record. That's the only part they see. But unlike any other data module, you could create this survey and send a URL to somebody via email, and when they load it up, it would be, however you designed it, with blank fields that they would fill out, and then, save that. And that information would be entered into your Ivinex system or captured. So some of the other pieces, of course, is the subtabs that you create in a normal data module. They're used in a different way in the survey system. Instead of buttons across the top of your module that you would click, like here's my contact information, here's my address information, and here's my, whatever, however you've broken that up, the subtabs instead turn into pages, like page 1, page 2, page 3, and someone can navigate through those different survey pages. Maybe some fields are on page 1, maybe some other fields are on page 2. So the subtabs turn into a navigation tool. The survey also has the ability to show kind of a next and previous, so you don't have to use the subtabs as navigation if you don't want to. It can just show next, previous, and then people just click next, 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 and they're actually navigating through your subtabs when they do that. It also has the ability to take one of the subtabs and kind of like a document where you may have a header area on your document. Maybe it's got your logo and your address information, and then you type out your letter in the middle. And maybe it's got, something like a footer at the bottom, maybe page number and, copyright, or I don't know, whatever you'd normally have. Like a normal document, the surveys support that kind of functionality where you could pick one of the subtabs and say, you are the header of my survey. So that means it's always shown at the top. As they navigate through the survey, it's always the top part. And you can do the bottom pane. It could be any subtab as well, and it would always show at the bottom. Okay, so another thing you can do is the survey URL and functionality supports and allows iframing. If you're not sure what an iframe is, an iframe is kind of like a piece of code that you would add to your website. And then it would be a box, on your website where you could load, any other website into that box. That's what an iframe is. It's a frame inside your web page that loads some other website or web page from somewhere else. Okay? So in the end, the survey allows you to create forms, some kind of form that can be used to capture data, and the captured data is stored in your Ivinex system. So I've got a quick example here of the iframe example. This is a survey that I created for this demo, and I've loaded it into the Ivinex website. Let's pull that up. So it looks like this. Well, at least this one looks like this. This is the Ivinex website, our normal website, and then I've added an area right here where I am pulling in this box, this area right here. This content is the actual survey that I built in Ivinex. Everything you see right, as I'm moving my mouse around, I built all of this in Ivinex, and this is a public page that loads that survey into here. So someone fills it out, clicks a button, this information is captured immediately in my Ivinex system. All right. So next up, this kind of is a visual diagram of what I've talked about. This is the pieces of the survey right here. The top pane kind of sits, again, always at the top. It can be any sub-tab. The content area, or the middle area, think of that as all your other sub-tabs that you haven't selected as a top or bottom pane. So those would be kind of pages of content. If you had 3 sub-tabs and none of them were selected as the top or bottom, then you would have 3 pages of content for your survey. So you have the ability to use the next previous button. If somebody clicks next, maybe your first sub-tab is called, welcome, and it shows something here. And they click next, maybe your second sub-tab is called, data fields or questions or something. And you've got, some fields in there, and somebody would fill it out, and then they click next, and maybe your third sub-tab is, thank you. Thank you for, taking our survey or filling out this form or whatever you want it to say. Okay, just seeing what's next. Before I go any further, I'm going to jump into the demo site and show you, the different pieces here. Well, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to log in a little differently. So, one moment. Okay. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Okay, so let's go into the admin tool and let's take a peek. So surveys is a feature that we turn on. If you come into your admin system and you don't have, you've got your module section and it's there, but you don't see a survey section, it just means we haven't turned it on. It's a feature. We just turn it on, and it's, I believe, quite a ways back this has been available. So even older versions of Ivinex should have the survey system in it. Just may not have every bell and whistle. But the idea is that if you don't have it and you want to use it based off what you see here, let us know and we can enable that. Okay. I'll show you kind of where that is. Feature. There's really no settings, but it's just it's called the survey feature that I've turned on for this site. Okay, so once that is enabled, this would be blank. This box would be blank, and you just say new survey, and it would be like new module, but instead new survey. Now, I've already created one, this demo survey, so we're going to load it, and it's very similar to how you would normally load a module. So we have a few things. I've got a couple sub-tabs: start, questions, the end, and then one I call admin. Now, I always kind of have an admin tab in all of my stuff, and I'll show you why I have one for the survey. But first, let's talk about these pieces that I'm looking at here. This is a static field. It's just a static field, and what did I do? I uploaded an image to it using insert an image right here. So that's all it does. Here's a static field. All it does is just have some text in it. Demonstration survey, click the button. These are actual fields. You can use all of the fields that you can normally use. Well, I think you can use, yes, I believe you can use them all. So text fields, decimal, dates, things like that. So what I've done is I've added 4. To even get started with the survey, I need your first name, last name, email, and phone number. And then what I did is I used the field type button where you go, new field, what's the type? Button. And buttons have a lot of functionality, but one of them is go to page. And what that means is I can tell this button to go directly to one of these subtabs when you click it. Okay, and it's just like which ones are available. All the ones that I've created, I could just say you go to the end when I click you, and then you'd click it, and I would be on that page or subtab. So this one is going to the questions. Okay, so before you can even kind of break out of the normal data module thing, you need to create what's called a survey option. That's up here in the top. When you load it, that'll be blank. It'll just say add new. And you'll want to click add new, and then it looks like this. It's kind of like some different settings. I called mine launch survey. I'm not going to just explain everything in here, probably just the most important ones, which are the hide next previous buttons. There's going to be like a next and previous that can appear down at the bottom. If it's set to 0, which is the default, then you actually do have a next and previous button. So let me see if I can save that and actually make that work. Let's see, reload this. Yeah, okay. So you get this next and the previous button will show up as you move through the survey. You don't have to use those, but you can if you want. I disabled them and instead opted to use my own button, is what I did. So that's in the survey option. If it's set to 0, it means I'd like to use them. If it's set to 1, it means I don't. Allow resubmit. That means can they change the data and submit it over and over again? I said no. 0 would be yes. Okay, so the top pane, that's as I was describing over here, yes, this top pane area, and the bottom pane, you set in that option window. Where am I? Hang on, sorry guys, got lost there for a second. Yeah, okay, so I'm not sure what this window is even for. Let me close that. Okay, a little confusion there. Okay, so the top pane is essentially you pick one of these subtabs. So, what you'd probably want to do is just make one. I guess I could just make one real quick. Test, display it, whatever I want. So for this little subtab here, I could add whatever I want. I'd probably recommend, maybe a static field or something, because this is if you choose to show it on the top or the bottom, it's going to be there on every page they navigate through. So maybe just something static like, here's my logo and, I don't know, some branding on it, or maybe just some instructions. Please make sure to fill out every field, whatever you want to do. It's just something that shows on every page. Okay, so again, back here, if I want to pick one, which one's the top pane? It's just select what I've already built and pick it, and then that's the one that shows at the top all the time. I've elected to not do the top pane and the bottom pane, but it's the same choices. And once you choose one, if I pick like the admin as the top pane, it will not be, you can't navigate to it anymore. Like next, next, next. It'll be excluded because it's already showing on every page anyway. So next, next, next. I'll never get to the admin pane because it'll always be at the top. So just know that. Navigation options. This is where you actually use these sub-tabs as navigation. So like you could do left or the top, makes it go run along the top, or on the left it looks like kind of like a sidebar navigation. I've kept mine nice and clean. My buttons move you through the different pages, so I've chosen to not show that at all. So anyway, after you fill this all out and you click save, you will have the, your survey option finished. And what that helps you to do is on the front side, I've created a survey record here. Here's one. And it gives you you got update, delete, and then you've got this new button called Launch Survey. And this is those options that I set up. So when I click that, it's going to use those options to create, the survey window per se. And instead of it popping up like in a pop-up window like normal Ivinex stuff, what it's going to do is open a whole new tab in my browser, like this. Okay, with this big, giant, long URL. But the idea is that I could just send a URL to somebody, which would look like, clean that up a little bit. What do we need? Probably that part. And I'll talk about all the URL parameters and everything here in a second. But let's just copy this. That's kind of all I need. I could tell somebody, hey, go to this URL. Oops, looks like I did a little bit wrong. I don't need this part. This actually pulls up, this collection ID part actually pulls up an existing record. I want a blank record. So let's do that. Then go. Okay. So I could send this to somebody, and then they would land on this page, and it would be blank. It would be like a new survey, and as they fill it out, it would store it as a new record, survey record in my Ivinex system. All right, so enough about that. I'm going to come back around here, and I'm going to turn off that next button. I don't want it. Okay. So, generally, if you are comfortable with creating modules and you understand the fields and the static fields and all that, it's pretty simple. That's page 1. Here's my questions. What it is, I created a giant static field just with question, and here's my question and all of that. And then I just put fields inside of it. Let me save that real quick. I just added some fields, like here's answer 1, and it's using the data type survey item. And this lets you say, how many options do I have? It's on a scale, 5 different options. So I can go and I can label them. Poor, then nothing, average, then nothing, and then excellent. So it lets them, just kind of pick, like that. So that's one of the fields I added. This is a few different ones, but you can see we've got date, a select box, check box, radio buttons. So let's fill out, I think we should fill out a new survey and just see how this is going to work, and then see if it stores it. So that's not it. Let's go here. Okay, so here's my new page. I'm going to reload this so it doesn't have the next button on it. Okay, and we're going to say survey example number 3 or something like that. Test@test.com and a bogus phone number. Okay, so I filled out that information. I'm going to click Let's Go, and then we get to the next page. And because it's an iframe, I've specified my iframe to have a height and a width, and it looks like my survey is just a little bit taller than the height. That's okay. I just have a little scroll bar in here. So how would I rate this webinar? Well, it's excellent, of course. How do I rate Ivinex? Ivinex is great. When would you like to get started with surveys? I'd like to do it today. Options, option 1, sure, why not? Do I like checkboxes? Yes. So this field just showed up because I clicked the checkbox. So that's using display conditions. As I said, the survey module supports all the normal stuff. So, this is kind of helpful. Why do I like checkboxes? Not sure. Is this webinar informative? I'd say yeah. Would I like to add my logo to the survey system? Maybe. Does nothing, not really. If I click yes, I get a new field, and it's actually file upload. So, you could have somebody upload an image or a file or a document. Like I said, it supports all the normal functionality of the normal data module systems. What other questions would I like to include? None. And then I've got a button that I added for submitting my answers. Really, what does this do? It just navigates to the end. So I'm going to click that and up here. Your answers have been submitted. Thank you for your participation. That's my end sub-tab. Okay, so let's take a peek here. Did that actually create a record? I see there are 2 surveys for my demo survey module. 1, 2. I'm going to reload it. And here's number 3. This is the one I just barely did on that public website. So it's a record. It's a record in my system. Here's all of the answers I filled out. And so that's pretty neat. You could use this for anything you want. It doesn't have to be a survey. It could be a contact form. It could be a lead generation tool. You could iframe a very simple form. Maybe it's just got, hey, if you're interested in our product, just give us your name and number and everything else, and then click the next button or whatever. And it's a little form on your website. They fill it out, click next. You've got a new record. Maybe it creates a lead. So because it's stored as a record in Ivinex, I can do anything at that point. I could trigger a workflow that says, sends an email. Thank you for filling out our survey. A representative will contact you shortly, because maybe it was a product thing. Maybe it was something about, are you interested in our product? I could workflow take this data and create a lead out of it if I wanted. I could add a conversion option to it and convert this data to an account. Anything I want to do. So all the tools are available to me. I just captured it on my website. Okay. So that's the basics, actually. Does anybody have any questions about what you've seen so far? It's pretty much the basics of the survey and how it works. No. Okay. Well, let's make it a little bit more exciting here. Let's talk about what else we can do. So as I was saying, display methods, it can be displayed in a couple of different ways. It can be displayed just as a standalone page or in an iframe. So I'm going to go over the URL pieces here for you and kind of, take it apart so that you know what the pieces do. So initially, I'm going to go here. I'm going to say launch survey. And this gives us a big, giant URL. There's a lot of stuff in here because it's in Ivinex that we really don't need. Okay? So let's go back to this part, and I'll just explain what we do need. So initially, you've got the path to your Ivinex site, and then it's going to have data entry form /show data entry form.php, and then a question mark. Now, the first thing is collection type ID. What this represents is this is your module, the module ID of the survey. So we need that part. Now, the next part is probably going to be collection ID, which would be the ID of the record itself. We don't need that part. But there is a parameter in here that says and display a standalone equals 1, and we do want that. We want it to act on its own, okay? So really, this URL right here is all you really need, and that part right there would just be the module ID of your survey. Where do I get that? It would be, not there, it would be here. That's my module ID right there. Demo survey, that. And you can see it when I pop it up. When I pop it up, it's right here. Collection type ID, that. So you need that. I don't need any of this. All of this can go away. All I need is this and this last bit right here. And display as standalone. Okay, so that's it. So that lets it pop up like this, and instead of being already filled out, it would be a blank record. Okay, so that's that. That's one way to do it. You could email that to people if you'd like. The other one is an iframe. I'm not going to teach you how to do an iframe, but I'm going to talk about kind of, what's the code to make it work. So let's take this full URL right here that we know already works, and we're going to wrap it in this thing called an iframe code. The iframe says I'm an iframe, and I don't have a border, and I don't have a frame width or whatever, or frame border, but my width is 100% and my height is 900 pixels. And what is the source of what is loaded inside of me, the iframe? It's this URL up here, and so that loads it in, and then I end my iframe code. Now, if you have questions about this or you're unsure, iframe information is all over the web, but you can also, ask me. I can help you out with this. It's not a problem. So the iframe is like here. That's the iframe example, where there's an invisible window right here, and it's loading our survey inside of it, so it can go on any website. Okay, any questions about that? Maybe not? Okay. This part I find pretty exciting, this next part. It's kind of recently added, but URL parameters. This part really kind of extends what surveys can do. They can already do quite a bit, but this lets us do a lot more. So it's possible to automatically fill out fields in the survey using URL parameters. So an example would be a survey. We've made a survey form kind of thing, and it's on I have two different websites. I put the survey in an iframe on one website, and I put it on another one. But if somebody fills it out on website 1, I would like the survey to track where it was filled out. So maybe I've got a field called source, and I call it website 1 is the value of that. And if it's on, if it's on website 2, the source would be website 2, okay? So that when they fill out the survey and submit it, I know which website it came from. Now that's just the most simplistic explanation of how you could use it. You could use it for a whole bunch more. Like you could store a whole bunch of data. Anything you want, really. So I'm going to demonstrate that, and let me first check to see if it's already set up to do that. Okay, so that's my new survey. Let me just see if it already did that. No. Okay, so I've got in my admin subtab, I've created a field called source. I've also created one called a source link, and it's linking to another module. Now what if I want to automatically fill those out? I want to fill it out right as soon as it loads. This field knows the source value. All I need to do is modify the URL. Okay, so that would be the normal URL that we had, and then we would add in a @ symbol, or an ampersand, the name of the field I want to fill out, equals, and then some value. It could be, you'd want to match the value with the field that you're filling out. If it's a text field, it could be and source equals my website number 1. That would be supported. I just put a 1 in there. So that's a basic thing you could do. So let me actually make that happen. This is going to take me a second. I have to edit the iframe code on our website. So 1 second. Just doing it over here in another window. Okay, source equals 1. Okay, let's do that one more time. So it should be active now. If I reload this, I should get a blank survey, which I do. Okay, I hope this works. I'm going to go really fast. Test. Actually, we'll call it test 4. Test. I don't have any validation or anything on this. And we're going to click on through. I'm just going to quick stuff really fast. Okay, so there's that. All right, so I should have a new survey. Let's load this up. Okay, here's my new one. And did I do it right? No, why not? And source equals 1. It's funny. When I go to do these webinars, I test all of this stuff. So I'm not sure why that didn't work. It should have worked. Okay. Anyway, I'll pull this URL back over here real quick so that you can see it. But the idea is that you're supposed to be able. I know that works. It didn't work for me. But the idea is and the name of the field I want to fill out equals and then the value that I want it to be. So I'm going to try that one more time. And I think I'm going to load it in a different window, actually. So I'm going to attempt to set the source field and the source link field. That's what I'm going to do. Just give me a second to double check that I have the right field names. Source. Yep. Source link. Okay, so I'm just going to show you what I'm doing. I'm doing this one right here where if I want to do more than one field, I do ampersand, source equals 1, and then I want to set the linked field. So I add another one of those, and I say source underscore link equals 1. Why underscore link? Because that's the actual, that's what Ivinex calls that field. So right here, click it, says source link. So I need to call it by that, not by the label, but what Ivinex thinks it is. Okay, let's just save that. Make sure it's good. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to try it in a different browser. I don't know what was going on over there. Let me grab that URL real fast. Okay. I hope this works this time. Okay, here we go. Test 5. Test. Moving on. Yes. Maybe. Go. Okay. So that one's done. Just double check. Over. Oh, it's just right here. Okay, so a new one. Yay. Okay, I did it right. Okay. So what happened is the user saw this page, the questions page, the end page. They never saw the admin page, but I was able to store source was equal to 1, and this link here actually linked to some other module, and because I set it as I know that this stores an ID, I set it as 1 as well, which set it to an actual record in my system. Okay, but you could just do a bunch of text fields, date fields. I mean, you can store anything you want by using this parameter. So all you need at the very beginning is everything not in yellow. That'll just be a normal survey. But if you add one of these things, the idea is that you're filling out fields automatically when somebody goes to submit the survey. Okay, tell you the truth, that's all the parts for a survey. There's a lot of use behind it. You can do a lot of exciting things. It's the only tool in Ivinex that allows you to create a public-facing data entry form or data entry point that you can add anywhere, any website you have. And it's the only system that allows you to do that. All the other data modules, you can't. You have to communicate via our API. But this one goes right around that and gives you a public-facing form. So are there any questions about what I've shown you so far? Is there any, I've got a minute or two here to answer any questions. Okay, no questions? All right, well, that's it. It's a pretty exciting, piece, I think. You can use it for a lot of stuff. So I will be posting this video on the training site. My documentation on surveys right now is not that great. This video is probably going to be the most in-depth explanation of surveys on the training site. But if you want to learn about other pieces of Ivinex, we do have the training site. You can learn about more information there. And unless there's any questions here at the very end, I think we're going to close this up and be done on surveys for today. So last chance for a question. Anybody? Okay. All right. Well, again, I want to say thanks for attending this webinar on surveys. And we'll see you guys next time. Have a good day, everybody.